Hi, I'm Warren Moore, and it's time for another installment of Social Distancing Story Time. Today's story is called Command Performance, and it is from a collection, an anthology really, of stories involving clowns. The book is called Grease Paint and 45s, and it's edited by Ryan Sales, aka Ryan the Walnut Sales, and there are a lot of good writers who took part in this, and you can find it on Amazon. That's Grease Paint and 45s, edited by Ryan Sales, and this, as I said, is a story called Command Performance. Is there an empty room where I can get ready? James Pruitt spoke to the woman at the nurse's station on the children's wing. He opened his bag toward her and showed her his props and makeup. I'll only need it for about 10 minutes. Even to get made up, you must be really fast. Pruitt read her ID badge, Jenna S. No, not really. We just don't do as much makeup as we used to these days. With the horror movies and stuff like that, too many people get creeped out by the full white face. And God knows I'm not here to scare the kids. He shook his head. Just being here is probably scary enough, so I keep the makeup pretty simple and pretty limited. Same with the costume. Really, it's the attitude, the character that makes the clowning anyway. He smiled. But is there a place I can use? The nurse thought a moment and said, There's the break room. It has a bathroom with a mirror. Will that work? Well, that'll be great. Can you tell me how to get there? I can do better than that, she said. Follow me. She led him down a main hallway, then a left and a right. He saw the things he always saw at the hospital, empty gurneys, carts with food trays. Pruitt walked past a room with the door ajar and saw the foot of a bed and a tired-looking woman sitting in a chair below a wall-mounted TV. Someone's mom, he thought, as SpongeBob's cackle drifted out the door. And he heard something else from his escort, but he hadn't made it out. Excuse me? I said, how long have you been doing this? Well, when I was in high school, I was at a street fair and they were doing little clown classes for kids. It seemed kind of fun and it turned out I liked it. So it kind of became a part-time job for me, doing birthday parties and school carnivals, stuff like that. Helped me pay my way through college. I even studied it for a while, got a theater arts minor, learning about different characters, the history, different bits. But it was strictly a part-time thing. And after college, I settled down, started a family. The things people do. He didn't have to close his eyes to see it. Linda, with her dark hair pulled back into a ponytail and the bluest eyes he'd ever seen, honest to God. And a couple years after that, little Beth. But when our daughter was 7, she woke up one morning and said her head hurt. We kept her home from school, and by 3 she asked us to turn the TV on because it was time for her show, but the TV was on. She just couldn't see it. We learned later that the tumor had been there for a while. It had to have been, even though it grew fast. And there just wasn't anything they could do, and 3 days later, Pruitt let it trail off. The doctors had told him she hadn't been in pain, and that was the only kindness of it. If she had hurt, Pruitt didn't want to think of what he could have done, what he might have thought he had to do. A lot of things had trailed off, he thought. After the funeral, how could a box that small hold someone who had smiled so big? There was too much silence in the house. A gray streak formed in Linda's hair, and after a time, the silence in the house grew too big for the house to hold even the two of them, and the divorce seemed like a mere confirmation of something that had happened 3 days after Beth's headache. Oh, God, the nurse said. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Pruitt said. Me too. But one day, I was at the cemetery, and I realized that even if I hadn't been able to do anything for Beth, maybe I could make other people, other kids happy. And that's how I got back into it, and I've done it for a couple of years. Sometimes knowing I can make people smile, well, it reminds me that I can too. They'd stopped at the break room by then, and the woman said she'd go back to the station, but that she'd show him to the day room when he was ready. Pruitt thanked her, went into the bathroom, and got to work. He had developed his makeup over the years, the red circles on the cheeks fading into his natural complexion, a more defined red circle at the tip of the nose, black laugh lines at the corners of the eyes, and some white around the mouth, but only enough to set off the lipstick smile. Eyebrows slanting slightly up toward the midline of the face, A few freckles completed the look. Friendly. He slipped on some baggy pants with deep pockets for some of the props, and slipped a sport coat even Bobby Knight would have found in bad taste. He had found it at Goodwill, over his light blue polo shirt. He messed his hair up and slipped on a propeller beanie. Showtime. Or it would be once he got to the day room. As Pruitt retraced his way through the hallway, he passed the door where he had heard SpongeBob earlier. The woman was standing by the door, talking to a doctor. Her face was blank and tired, and the doctor's was only slightly more animated. Pruitt stopped and got a drink from the hallway water fountain. You have to be careful once the makeup's on. He sipped carefully and heard a couple of words, even though they were softly spoken, and the fountain was running. Words like palliative and hospice. As he stood back up, he saw a sticker on the chart the doctor was holding. It was white with red letters. DNR/DNI. Pruitt was walking away as the doctor slipped this chart into the holder beside the door. He got back to the nurse's station without any difficulty, and Jenna was waiting for him. "It's so sweet of you to do this," she said. "It's okay," he said. When we lost Beth, all I wanted to do was give her something that might distract her for a few minutes. I told her stories, but I don't know if she heard them. The TV was running at the end, but, well, I don't know. But if I can do this and make it a little better, even for just a little bit, okay. And besides, most of these kids are going to go home. We might as well give them a show so it might not be scary for their brother or sister if they have to come back. And they were at the day room door with a plaque thanking a local business for its generosity. Jenna swiped her ID through a card reader and the double doors swung open. His smile was genuine. "I'm Jimbo. What's going on?" There were children ranging in age from toddlers sitting in wagons to a couple of teenagers playing 8-ball, with a number of adults around the edges of the room. Pruitt was rushed by 3 or 4 of the young ones. He'd guessed them to be in the kindergarten to 3rd grade range. One little girl wore a floral band around her shaven head. He saw the dots of the tattoo that had been placed there for the radiotherapy. He reached into a pocket of his sport coat and produced a ridiculous fake flower with eyelashes on it. "Would you care for a flower, miss?" She eyed him warily. "Does it squirt water when I smell it?" "Don't be ridiculous. You watch far too much television." He handed her the flower, leaned over to sniff it himself, and pushed a button that had it spray him directly in the forehead. "It squirts water when I smell it." The children laughed as he dabbed his forehead with a handkerchief, and things were rolling along. Pruitt, he was Jimbo now, pulled some scarves from another pocket and began slow motion juggling. As he'd catch one, he acted as if it weighed hundreds of pounds and would hoist it merely to flutter back down. After a bit, a little boy asked if he could try. Jimbo said, "We can try, but these things are heavy." The child took one and said, "This isn't heavy at all." "You must be stronger than you look," and on with the show. He occasionally saw some of the parents using the cameras on their cell phones as he worked the room, but his focus was on the kids as he worked gags into bits, pulled coins from ears, and blew some bubbles for some of the smaller ones. Yet another pocket revealed a pump that looked like a flit gun, and now it was time for balloon critters. And for half an hour, he hardly thought of Beth at all. At the end of his act, he accepted hugs from the children, and even some from the occasional mom or dad, and said he hoped to see them all soon, but not there. And he pressed against the crash bar on one of the double doors and stepped out of the room, followed by the sound of applause. Jenna was standing in the hallway when he finished and slouched against the wall by the door. "That was really great, Mr. Pruitt. I was watching through the window in the door." "You're very kind. The important thing is that they seem to enjoy it." "I'm sure they do. It breaks up the routine, but in a good way, you know." He nodded, and after a breath said, "Well, I guess I'd better be getting back home. Do you mind if I use the break room again?" "No problem. Do you remember how to get there?" "Yeah. Thanks for all your help." He flipped her a half wave, half salute, and headed back down the hall, glancing over his shoulder to watch as Jenna returned to her station. When he passed what he thought of as the SpongeBob room, he knew it had a number, but he hadn't noticed it earlier. The door was ajar, but he didn't hear the television. He couldn't resist. Glancing both ways, he stepped into the room. A little boy lay in the bed. From his size, Pruitt guessed the child might be 8 or 9, but his eyes were impossibly immeasurably old and distant. "Hello," Pruitt said. "I'm Jimbo." The child spoke softly. Pruitt had to strain to hear him over the sounds of the machinery, the devices keeping the boy alive. "I'm Keith." "Are you real?" "Yeah." "Okay. I'm not sure sometimes. Sometimes the medicine makes me see things." "Where's your mom?" "She's gone to fix supper for my brother. She'll bring me back something tonight too, but I don't really want it." "Would you like me to turn the TV on for you?" "No. I've seen all the shows before. I'm just tired." "Okay. I'll go, but I was walking by your room earlier and I wanted to say hi." "I don't get many visitors. They won't let the kids from school visit me, and when grown-ups come by, they don't really know what to say." Keith paused. "I'm not going to get better. I'm going to die." Pruitt almost lapsed into the automatic things one says, the "don't be silly" or "you don't know that," but he looked in Keith's eyes again, and then he thought about the sticker on the chart, and so he didn't say these things. Instead, he said, "I had a daughter. Her name was Beth." "Did she die?" Pruitt nodded. "Did it take a long time?" "No. She got sick, and then she was gone in a few days." "Were you there?" "Yes, and I never left," he thought. "I'm still there." "I don't think I want my mom to be here." The ghost of a smile flickered across his face. "I don't think I want to be here. I mean now. I've been here a really long time." "I'm sorry, Keith. I wish you didn't have to be." "Something I don't get." "Yeah?" "People tell me that when I die," the word sounded matter-of-fact, like "if it rains," "when I die, I'm going to be with Jesus, and I won't hurt anymore, and all sorts of cool stuff." "A lot of people think that," Pruitt said. "Do you think that?" "I don't know, Keith. I hope so. I hope so for Beth, and for you, and, well, for me sooner or later." And then Pruitt saw the anger in the boy's old eyes. "Then why are they making me stay here?" "Your family would miss you." "They will anyway, and I'm tired." He inhaled again. "Did your daughter hurt when she died?" "Maybe at first. That's how we learned she was sick. But at the end, I don't think so." The boy nodded. "Can you do that for me?" Pruitt took an involuntary step back, bumping the back of his head on the TV mount. "I can't do that. Look at me. I'm a clown. I want to make people smile and laugh and be happy." "Then make me happy," the boy said. "Tell me a joke." "What did one snowman say to the other snowman?" "I give up." "Do you smell carrots?" It took a second, but Keith smiled and made a stuttering noise that Pruitt thought might be a laugh. And then he said, "You made me smile. Now can you make me not hurt anymore?" And if you asked him later, James Pruitt would say it was like he was watching someone else as he picked up a pillow and held it down for a short time, and slipped out the door again and finished his trip to the break room. Indeed, he realized that he hardly had to hold the pillow. Its own weight was probably enough once the oxygen tube slipped out. He heard an alarm after a few minutes, but didn't hear the running feet that he had heard when Beth's alarm went off. Back in his street clothes, Pruitt made his way toward the exit, passing the nurse's station once more. Jenna was there, and he saw her eyes were slightly red. He asked if she was okay. "You think you'd get used to it, losing them. That's what happens here. But sometimes it's still hard." Pruitt nodded. "It is. But you do what you can. You try to help them in whatever way you can." "I know you get it," she said. "You've been through it. And now you do this." He nodded. "You try to make them as happy as you can." Okay, that was Command Performance from the book Grease Paint and 45s, which you can find at Amazon. Published by Down and Out Books, who also published my novel, which is called Broken Glass Waltzes, and which also can be found on Amazon. Okay, so I'm Warren Moore, also known as Professor Mondo. I have a blog by that title, and you can find me on Twitter as @ProfMondo. So, if you want to get in touch, feel free to do that. If you like what you saw, or if you thought it was good or whatever, give me a like, give me a comment, and we'll probably do this again pretty soon. Thanks, everybody.